Ahoy everyone, welcome back to World of Warships. My name is Corny Phil, and today I'm driving out the Saipan Tier 6 American Carrier on the fault line map mode, or fault line map in domination mode. As you can see from the screen, this that was flashed up briefly, this is a fairly balanced game. We're, at least from a carrier's perspective, we're even on carriers. We've got a Nagato to their Fuso, which my understanding is that's not actually an advantage. The Fuso, I think, is a little bit better. But we have an advantage at the cruiser tier. So we'll see how this game goes. The initial part of carrier gameplay is more or less the same, regardless of anything. It's get all your squadrons into the air. And because I was kind of bored, I decided to do a little flyby here. Get a sight of my beautiful squadron flying in formation. As you can see, Steve there on the left is perfect formation as always. And here's our dive bombers, the only biplanes I still have. And here's my torpedo bombers taking off. They didn't do a great job animating this, but whatever. But anyway, so all my squads are up and active, and since I'm the lower tier, I'm the Saipan, and there's a Ranger. That's actually and there's a couple of battleships over there playing Hugs and Kisses, which is kind of funny. Since I'm the lower tier carrier, there actually is a fairly significant jump between the Ranger and the Saipan. His planes are flat out better than mine. And I believe, do we have the same number of squadrons? Okay, we have the same number of squadrons, but his planes are just flat out better. There's a nice close-up of those two battleships playing all hugs and kisses together, which is always funny to watch. So, given that my planes aren't going to be better than the opponent's Rangers, or the opponent Rangers' planes, I decide to fly in formation with my Rangers' planes, if only to distract from problems. And there's one of their tally-ho on a squadron of fighters, so making a decision here. I see that battleship and I say, okay, he's going to be my target. Kind of breaking off from the Ranger squadron, but now we're kind of putting them in a situation where they have to, either they have to split their forces to come after us, which is fine because that still leaves it one-on-one, or they can focus fire one of us. And unfortunately, in this case, they actually end up focus firing his squadrons, but I think he has more planes than me, so he can deal. Send my dive bombers after this destroyer. Honestly, I don't control dive bombers very well, so I generally use them as a freebie. And there you can see the planes engaging, but again, there's not much I can do. All I can do is do what my job is, which is find the enemy and hurt the enemy with torpedoes. So looks like we're gonna get another fairly good spread off here. This Fuso is actually maneuvering, so I'm not gonna get a perfect spread, but as you can see, I'm kind of trying to reposition the attack vector, try to get as most as I can. Didn't hit it perfectly. I think, especially with Squad 3, I could have done better, but still, I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of his health just gone before he's really into the fight. And my dive bombers did alright, so now routing my fighter squadrons to go pick on some of their carriers' planes, and I realize I'm not moving, and there's dive bombers and torpedo planes and all sorts of things coming at me. So this is not a good situation. So power up to full and start maneuvering. The one advantage carriers do seem to have is that we are maneuverable and fast. I mean, especially these early carriers, my understanding is they're basically a cruiser hull with a flat top on top. So it's not inconceivable that you can maneuver around torpedoes. And this guy, I can't tell if he manual fired or just auto fired. I'm pretty sure he manual fired because he fired them real close to me. And the dive bombers hit me there and set me on fire, but still, the angle of those torpedo planes was not really conducive to hitting me. I kind of maneuver out of the closer spread, and the other spread's just far enough away that I can outrun their fuel, or their engine endurance, and get away from them. So thankfully, don't take a hit here because either spread of those would have hurt. Meanwhile, my torpedo planes and dive bombers have returned home. Torpedo planes are working their way home. Took some casualties somewhere along the line, and my fighters are engaging with the enemy dive bombers, splashing a bunch of them, which is good thing to do. And at this point, I realize my fighters got a little bit of ammo left, so vectoring them in on those torpedo planes, and the ammo's gone, so whatever. But they did their job, which is they took down some enemy planes, planes that person can't necessarily easily replace. And more importantly, my squad's made it home relatively untouched. Now, our buddies' planes are down, and more importantly, we've got a destroyer coming in on us. So now it's time to get ready to maneuver again, send my dive bombers after him. At this point, I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can. Like, I'm trying to get him off of me. And that's kind of how carriers have to defend themselves in this situation. Like, using planes against destroyers is a giant waste. As you'll see right here, I don't think I get a single bomb on him because it's just not a good use of time. But like when Squad 4 of my torpedo planes come up, I'm going to drop torpedoes on him. Why? Because I'm just trying to get him away from me. And one way to do that is to make it so that approaching me is going to require going through torpedoes. And actually, my buddy carrier actually does a great job here of positioning it so the destroyer has to take some of the hits. And I'll credit that with ultimately saving my neck here, because he takes spread there. My other torpedo squad was completely off, though it does mean the destroyer had to start a little bit further away from me, rather than being able to get immediately alongside me. And now he's in a stern chase, which means he can't really use his torpedoes. And destroyer guns being what they are, I'm not really worried about that. And I've got my own destroyer and cruiser coming back to help me. They're slinging as many shells as they can, and this destroyer right here puts a perfect spread on the far side of the island. The destroyer's trapped. He tries to maneuver. Not good enough. Thanked him for the save. Make the mistake of calling it, calling him a boy. Apparently it's a lady, so thank you, lady. And it took me a minute to realize this, but I actually make this maneuver here, deploying my fighter squad over there just to basically get them away, because he's clearly just waiting for my torpedo bombers to come up. But if you look on the west side of the map, in the mini-map in the corner, there aren't a lot of friendly ships over there, and there's a lot of red ships, so we need to turn around and run the other way, because this is not good for business. Yeah, here I think was the point I noticed that I was like, okay, we need to start going in the other direction. And my fighter squadron's actually losing that dogfight, but that's okay because he doesn't have to win it. He just needs to do damage. I'm okay losing my fighter squadrons at this point, because I know the enemy carriers have lost similar numbers of fighters, and wiping out a squadron is always good. More importantly, this is to let my torpedoes and dive bombers get up into the air, and looks like I exhausted that fighter's ammo, so I'm able to deploy the birds and get going. And one thing you'll notice I do, and I don't know if everyone in the community does this or if it's just me, usually when I'm positioning planes, I only control my torpedo bombers. Like, I'll tell my fighter squadron and dive bomber squadrons to follow my torpedo bombers, and then kind of spin them off when I need to. But I just feel like, since torpedo bombers are the crux of what I'm doing, like they're the point of my ship, I just focus on them. So, already kind of deployed the dive bombers. Their goal is going to be to try to, do a little bit of damage here, and positioning the torpedoes as best we can. Again, this guy doesn't seem to be maneuvering as much, so we're, kind of readjusting the aim here, just trying to get, okay, we're committed now. Good torp spreads going in. I think he's going to get away from a fair number of them. He's just going to turn into them, which is what he should do. And I think I deployed a little bit too close, so not all the torpedo warheads armed. So not my best spread ever, but still good hits on him. Forced out his repairability if he has it. And we've got a carrier and a destroyer, a cruiser and a destroyer that are trying to protect us. And I got to give a shout out to both of them. They took it to heart to defend us. And, I don't think that's the wrong choice. I think it's actually a very smart choice, because carriers can kill any other ship in the game given enough time. Even destroyers, which are a pain. By the way, see those dive bombers incoming, send my fighters after him. Like, no sir, you're not doing this for free. But, I think they rightfully recognize that at the point in the game, chasing into the enemy's base they're not going to get there in time. But what they can do in time is protect me and the Ranger, which is what they do perfectly. They keep this battleship at arm's length. They give them other targets to shoot with. The destroyer, unfortunately, had to die to make that happen. But, after having scared off the dive bombers, it's bring my fighter squads back home and actually see my Ranger buddies, squadron heading out there all alone. I'm like, well, that's no good. So I send out my squadron. I don't know if my planes are going to make that much of a difference. I was hearing something today that the fighter tiering isn't very well done, so, one tier up fighters, like, slaughter the tier below them. But even then, I just need to put planes into that fight. And, looks like the carrier here wasn't paying attention and got his dive bombers pinned in a bad spot. Our dive bombers are back up, so send them after the battleship. We just need to keep hitting him. The only way to kill it, that's the thing about battleships is it's rare to get like that one clip where I one-shot one. Most of the time, your goal is just to keep hitting them, and eventually they sink. So Squad 3 is up, and Squad 4 is on its way. That's another thing I do. I don't know. I think most carriers do it this way. They combine forces and all into one punch. I think a lot of people do a better job than I do of positioning them so you get like cross spreads. I prefer to just try to aim it so I can get, 12 torpedoes on target, because I feel like one big punch is better than two, moderately good punches. So my fighter squadron's over here, just kind of holding them off. I think the same as his. The one challenge we have is that I don't think he's paying much attention to that. And dive bombers going in. Do we hit anything? Yeah, we got a hit. A hit. So not great, not really worth the fighters we deployed there. Granted, we were coming in at a bad angle, but, ultimately, it's fine. And actually, I start vectoring my torpedo planes away right here because I realize this guy's dead. Like, the cruiser can finish him off, so let's not waste those shots. Let's get our torp planes moving somewhere else. And I see this big double squad of fighters coming in. I immediately deploy mine, and I immediately start signaling my team. I'm like, dude, we need to pay attention here. There's fighting to be done. And I think he eventually figures it out, or at least his squad gets engaged on, so we start ripping into each other. And again, the point there is not to win the dogfight, though I'd like to. The point is to protect my torpedo planes from further engagement, which is what they end up doing. See the carrier there, and he's made what seems like a really interesting life choice, in that he has crashed himself into an island. Not smart. Turns out later, I think he said in the chat a little later that his autopilot had messed up, so he, didn't want to be there. But regardless, I think the carrier he shouldn't have been in those islands anyway, because it's hard enough to avoid torpedoes, even in a fast ship, but putting yourself in situations like this where there's less room to maneuver is not a good idea. So, basically we're just, he's going to start trying to back up to save himself, but no ship moves fast enough. It's just going to be probably an overkill here, but, nice coup de grace here, 12 torpedoes. He's basically going to take them all amidships. There's not much you can do about that. I mean, that's just, zoom in here for theatrical effect, but that's just, kaboom. Yeah, let's just put him down nice and easy. So our team's winning here. We've got a pretty commanding lead in terms of vessels. We're down in points a little bit, but one of the things that's interesting about domination is since you get points for sinking enemy ships and they lose points, winning by point total is a lot easier by killing enemy ships than it is by, and there's his message saying, his autopilot had messed up, which, I don't, it happens. I mean, it sucks. I was wondering why he was like that. But at this point, my involvement in the battle is basically over. My torpedo planes are out. I'm vectoring my dive bombers, but they're really not going to get anywhere in time. This game's pretty much sewn up, which is a good thing. It's nice to win games. But yeah, that's basically a full game of a carrier. As you can see, it's kind of an interesting difference. The term asymmetric gaming gets thrown around, and it is a case where, and Swiss gives me crap about this because I like playing carriers, and he thinks carriers are the most boring things on the planet. That the carrier game is nothing like the rest of the game. In cruisers and destroyers, I if I was being snarky, I'd point out you just spam left mouse button to win, and in carriers you actually have to think for more than 2 seconds. But whatever. That destroyer's basically dead. One good hit should put him down. Our destroyer's nearly dead too, but between my dive bombers and him, we should get this. That should win the game. So yeah, this is a complete carrier game. Pretty good game. Got got the one kill, bunch of torpedo hits, and to be honest, I don't feel like carriers get that many kills. Not because they can't, but just because it's a little bit more challenging to do so, because unless you get a really good torp spread or you catch somebody who's in a bad spot, like, most of the time you're just not gonna kill that many ships. You know, really, I view my job as I need to put damage into things. I need to weaken their battleships so that when our battleships go line to line, we win. And here, kind of celebrating our impending victory, get a little time with my dive bombers flying in formation and my lone surviving Buffalo right here. This is all that remains of the 12 planes I rolled out with. It's just the one dude, and get another cinematic here of my dive bombers flying in, but the battle's won. So there you have it. Saipan, victory, 4,000 experience, almost 250,000 credits. Came in, I believe I was in second place overall. Yeah, I can't see the numbers right now, but I think it was second place overall, which is pretty impressive. And I did a boatload of damage, well over 70,000. So until next time, I'm Corny Phil. See ya.